Well, Broncos country, the Devaughn Vele hype train is officially underway, man, after a dominant performance by all accounts. Out of the first week of OTAs from local media, everyone was talking about Devaughn Vele looked great. And now my really good friend David with David Talks Broncos, obviously, if you're not subscribed to David Talks Broncos, go do that because something's wrong with you. But he had a wonderful video yesterday talking about why Troy Franklin is going to be the player that breaks out, the wide receiver that ultimately breaks out for the Broncos. And he had some awesome stuff in there. Well, I'm going to talk about why I think it's going to be Devaughn Vele. But the good news is, regardless of who ends up being right, this is phenomenal news for Broncos country because I think both of us can make great arguments as to why each of those respective players are going to ball out in the 2025. So like and subscribe, guys. Join the community, man, that we are building. We're having a great time here. And let's get into a little bit of Devaughn Vele. So I think first and foremost, it's really important to talk about Vele's history, right? Because he had a massively successful rookie season given where he was drafted, being a seventh round pick. Seventh round pick wide receiver. I remember when we drafted him, I thought, he better be really good at special teams. And then you start looking into him. He was 26 years old. That kind of explained a lot. But he had some very intriguing traits about him. But still, I just didn't think he was going to be that, impactful of a player. Then camp starts, and he starts dominating, making plays all the time in camp. And still, I'm thinking to myself, seventh round pick, man, this might all be smoke. I'll believe it when I believe it. And all he did was catch he had 8 targets, caught all 8 of them in the first week game against Seattle. And he ended up being a very big part of the offense, right? Played in 13 games, had 41 catches, 575 yards, and 3 touchdowns when it was all said and done. So kudos to him for having, did I say 575? I meant 475 yards and 3 touchdowns. But regardless, a phenomenal year, right? So here's why I think that he's going to be able to take a massive leap going forward. Because for me, when I look at Devaughn Vele, I see somebody that has the build and the well-rounded game that Sean Payton loves from his receivers. He loves the big receivers, and he loves the receivers that can play everywhere, all over the field. I project for him to be our Z receiver. I think he best is suited there. He can definitely make some strides as a blocker, but he's a very good big slot receiver. He can create separation. He can catch balls across the middle, as you guys will be able to see here. So shout out to David for the idea. I love playerprofile.com, so I do want to highlight them because they are awesome and doing phenomenal stuff there. And we're going to talk about a little bit of the same metrics that David had talked about in his video. So when you talk about the target separation, right? Yes, not as impressive as Troy Franklin's, right? Troy Franklin, I believe, was at 1.98, and he was number 12 in the entire NFL. He's at 1.47 and ranked number 63. Here's some interesting context for him, though. Vele ran a lot more of those routes that you don't expect for there to be a whole ton of separation, right? He wasn't going to be running go routes down the middle and just beating guys with his speed. He was going to be forced to make tough contested catches across the middle. So that being said, his 1.47 target separation grade is actually pretty damn impressive. I'll give you guys some other player comps when we get to that, but it's a very impressive stat number for him. Another great thing that you like to see here, man, is, for somebody that got 55 targets and was able to get 41 receptions, he had only 2 drops at a 3.6% drop rate. Very sure-handed, catches everything. Obviously, we cannot forget, because I'm not going to be fully biased in orange and blue, he had a terrible game. Awful. By far and away worst game of the season. In the playoff wildcard game in Buffalo, where he actually had 2 drops in that game on 2 targets, it was brutal. But generally speaking, that was one game. We're not going to, make us forget about the 13 games that we had prior to that in the season. Another really interesting and solid stat for him is the contested catch rate at 57.1% on 7 targets. That's ranked at number 9th in the NFL. Now, I know 7 targets isn't a lot, but in those contested catches, he's making them, man. He's a very strong wide receiver, sure-handed. I expect for him to be even better as he's getting stronger, as he's getting more comfortable playing in this league. You do got to love it. And here's a really impressive thing too. Explosive rating of 96. When you compare that with someone like Troy Franklin, who's known to be an explosive player, He was at 88.6. This is 96 out of 100. And what does this mean? It's a comprehensive rating of a player's explosiveness, factoring in per play efficiency, total volume of explosive plays created, etc. And it basically blends passing, rushing, receiving according to usage. So it's just a big ass math formula, but you got to love it, man. He's shown some explosion and you see it on the tape. You really, really do. He's somebody that is explosive really out of his breaks. He does a good job of being able to create separation. And the best part, well, I guess the best and the worst part is he wasn't even all that good of a route runner. He struggled a little bit with leverage and being able to sell, which routes that he was running as a wide receiver. And I think he's cleaned a lot of that up because the reports are saying that he has. Now, it's still very early in the offseason, but he gets a little bit better at the route running and just cleans up those little things. I think he's going to be a problem. I think he's going to be somebody that can definitely build on a very, very good year that he had last season, which I absolutely love. Now, looking at Troy Franklin, I love it, man. I do like what I had seen from Troy. I'm still pretty optimistic about Troy Franklin as overall. I think there's some people that are really down on him, but I think I've come to terms with him that he's going to be a kind of player that ultimately is our deep threat. He's the guy that we're just going to be able to send deep and make those explosive plays. He's shown that he can create separation that way. He's tested to be that kind of a player. He's not a short to mid route running guy that can create a lot of separation, but he's going to be able to create separation down the field because he can really, really get going. And so, there's a little bit of that, but also, 2 drops on a 3.8% rate. So the drops on here don't necessarily give the problem that he really had. Troy Franklin struggled a lot last year with being able to track the ball. So there was a lot of opportunities that he could have, if he tracked the ball better, he could have gotten his hands on him, but he didn't even do that. So it didn't technically go in as a drop, but that's something that I feel like he needs to certainly get better at. Ain't no doubt about it. And, contested catch rate, he had 6 targets, caught none of them on contested catch. So that doesn't paint the whole picture. But really, when you're comparing Devaughn Vele and Troy Franklin, you're comparing 2 very, very different players, not just from their build, but from how they're going to be utilized in this offense. So if both of these guys blow up, like I'm saying for Vele and like David was saying with Troy Franklin, it's going to be great things, great things for the Denver Broncos offense as a whole. But very impressive stuff when it comes to what you see from Devaughn Vele. Obviously, like I said, I think that he's going to be able to take a massive leap forward. Now, predictions, and do I think he's going to, have even better stats going into the 2025 season? I mean, I would certainly hope so, but there's things that you have to really take into account when it comes to predictions for this team, right? Firstly, I'm factoring in that Bo is going to have a jump, a pretty significant jump in year 2, meaning he's going to have more yards, more touchdowns. That's going to garner more opportunities for the rest of these guys. But we did add Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is going to eat up a lot of targets that were distributed out to a multitude of guys last year. You would expect that. I also expect for RJ Harvey to get about 65 to 70 catches this year. That's just what Sean Payton's done historically with running backs in his offense, first and foremost. And secondly, he's going to be used more. I think Sean Payton really wants to use RJ Harvey as much as he possibly can in the pass game. Last year, Javonte Williams had 51 catches. So if you're telling me 65 to 70 for RJ is crazy, I think you got to rethink a lot of the things that, you're thinking about this offense, because I expect RJ to take more snaps than Javonte did next year. And I expect for him to be targeted quite a bit more than Javonte. But even if he gets the same amount of catches, 50, 55, I think they're going to be a lot more explosive and a lot more meaningful than just a couple, 2-yard screen throws as well. But those are some aspects of the game that you have to take into account. I expect for a lot of that to go up. So predictions, we'll save that for another time once we get closer to the season. But I think Devaughn Vele is going to be the guy that can truly take a big leap for this team. And his versatility is really imperative. He can play outside in the X, right? If Sutton were to get hurt, Devaughn Vele can fill in for Cortland Sutton. He might even ultimately one day be the replacement for Cortland Sutton. If you need somebody in the slot, if Evan Ingram gets hurt, you can supplement a lot of those, snaps that Evan Ingram would normally be running and where he'd be lined up. Devaughn Vele can do that, being an interior slot guy. So you like that. You want to see him take strides as a blocker, sure. But I think that he is going to be the direct replacement for little Jordan Humphrey this year, and I think he's going to be a lot better in most aspects than little Jordan was last year, especially in the pass catching game. It's a fascinating room to watch. I'm looking forward to checking it out, man. But definitely be sure to check out David's video about Troy Franklin. I did link it down below in the description. And I want you guys to let me know, do you think it's going to be Franklin that blows up in year 2? Do you think it's going to be Vele that takes the next step? Or is it going to be someone else that shows up for this team? Is Pat Bryant just going to be a plug-and-play rookie, go for it, he's wide receiver 2 right away? Or is Marvin Mims the separation king, the jack of all trades type of, joystick player that we love to line up everywhere? Is he going to be the guy that's going to just get more and more opportunities alongside Courtland Sutton in this offense? Let me know below, guys. Until the next video, y'all take it easy, man. Go Broncos, and peace out.